Ready for a deep dive into a world that's smaller than you can imagine, but holds the blueprint to, well, you.
Sounds intriguing.
We're talking cells, of course. And let
Okay.
me tell you, understanding these tiny building blocks is turning into some of the biggest science out there.
It's true. The more we learn about cells, the more we realize just how much potential they hold, especially when it comes to medicine.
Right, like in The Song of a Cell, Siddhartha Mukherjee talks about using our knowledge of cells to treat, even cure diseases. And it's like, whoa.
Absolutely. The future he describes is mind-blowing.
Totally. But before we get too far ahead, let's talk about a project happening right now that's trying to get a handle on this whole cell thing, the Human Cell Atlas. Ever heard of it?
Oh, absolutely. Ambitious project, to say the least. They're trying to catalog every single type of human cell.
You make it sound so simple. But here's the thing. Scientists don't even know how many cell types there are. Isn't that wild?
It really speaks to how much we still have to learn about our own bodies.
It's blowing my mind a little bit, not gonna lie. So some experts say there are maybe around 6,000 different types.
Which seems like a pretty big number already.
Right. But then other researchers are throwing out estimates closer to 80 trillion. 80 trillion, that's like more than all the stars in the universe, right?
It's a staggering number,
That's-
and it highlights the massive scale of complexity within us.
Okay, so hold on. If we can't even agree on a number, how do we even start defining what makes a cell type? I mean, where's the line?
And that's the million-dollar question. Defining cell type is surprisingly complex. It's not just about what you see under a microscope anymore. We're talking about genetics, function, behavior.
So it's almost philosophical in a way.
Exactly. Cells are dynamic, constantly changing. So where do you draw those boundaries? It's a debate that's been going on for centuries.
Centuries, wow. It's like we're trying to solve a puzzle that's been passed down for generations. Makes you wonder where it all began, you know?
Well, every journey has a starting point.
Mm-hmm.
And for us, that journey takes us back to 1839.
1839. Okay, now that's going way back. What happened back then that was so important for understanding cells?
That was the year a scientist named Theodor Schwann published his book, Microscopical Researches.
Microscopical researches. Catchy. I'm guessing it wasn't exactly a bestseller.
Maybe not in the traditional sense, but trust me, this book was a game changer. It basically launched the entire field of cell biology.
No way. All because of this one book. What did it say that was so revolutionary?
Schwann was one of the first scientists to propose that everything alive, plants, animals, even us, are all made up of cells.
So before that, people didn't realize that everything was made of cells.
It wasn't that simple. Back then, the tools for looking at cells were pretty basic. But Schwann's work helped solidify the idea that cells were the fundamental units of life.
That's huge. And we still see his influence today, right?
Yeah.
Like, we have Schwann cells.
Exactly. They're a critical part of your nervous system.
Yeah.
And he introduced terms we still use all the time, like metabolism.
It's amazing how much of our understanding of the body traces back to this one scientist from the 1800s. But hold on, if he was looking at cells back then, how in the world was he classifying them? We didn't have gene sequencing or any of that.
You're right, technology was a bit limited back then. He was relying on what he could observe through a microscope.
And what? He just eyeballed it. Like, that one looks kind of different. Let's call it a new type.
Not quite. He actually developed a detailed 5-part classification system based on the structures and organization of cells within different tissues.
A 5-part system. Back in 1839. That's impressive.
It was cutting-edge science for its time. And here's where it gets even more interesting. The research project we're talking about today, they're actually translating Schwann's book into Portuguese for the very first time.
Whoa, that's pretty cool. So it's not just about the science itself, but about making that knowledge accessible to even more people.
Exactly. It's about bridging gaps between the past and present and between languages and cultures.
Making knowledge accessible to everyone, that's what it's all about. But I have to ask, we're not just dusting off old books for fun here, right? What's the connection between this 1839 research and the cutting-edge science happening today?
You're right. We've come a long way since 1839. Today, researchers are using some seriously impressive tech to study cells, and this project is no exception.
So no dusty old microscopes for this team. What are they using?
One of the tools they're using is called a Wikibase. Think of it like a super-powered searchable database.
A Wikibase.
Ah.
Okay, I'm vaguely familiar with that, but how does it apply to cells?
They're using it to build a digital model of Schwann's entire classification system.
Whoa, hold on. They're taking a nearly 200-year-old system and putting it online. That's got to be useful, but how?
It's all about making connections. See, by digitizing Schwann's work, researchers can directly compare it to how we classify cells today, using something called the cell ontology.
Cell ontology, right, right. It's like a universal cell dictionary.
Yeah, exactly. And by comparing these two systems, one from the 1800s and one that's constantly evolving, we can start to see how our understanding has changed over time.
It's like getting a glimpse into the minds of those early scientists. What an incredible opportunity to see what they got right, what's changed, and maybe even find some hidden gems that we've overlooked all these years.
And who knows what we might find. This project has the potential to unlock new insights into the very building blocks of life. And beyond the scientific discoveries, there's that goal of accessibility we talked about. Translating Schwann's work into Portuguese makes this knowledge available to a whole new audience.
And I read somewhere that there are even issues with how cell theory is presented in some Brazilian textbooks, right?
Unfortunately, yes. It's a critical part of biology that hasn't always received the attention it deserves. But this project aims to change that. By providing these foundational texts in Portuguese, they hope to inspire future generations of scientists.
I love that. Everyone deserves access to this knowledge. It's been amazing to take this deep dive with you today. We've gone from the earliest days of cell biology to the cutting edge, all while thinking about the importance of language, accessibility, and making sure everyone has the chance to learn about the amazing world inside their own bodies. It makes you wonder, what other scientific givens might be completely rewritten in the years to come? Thanks for joining us for this incredible journey. Until next time, keep those brain cells buzzing.